Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global podcast. I'm joined by my co-host today, James Finister.
Hello.
Patrick Bolger.
Hello.
And I'm Simone Jo Moore. And our special guest today is Ollie O'Donoghue from SDI. Welcome.
Hello. Hello.
So Ollie, let's get straight into it. You working with SDI and going out to all these various different service desks and doing your certification and things like that. You're seeing a change in the role of the service desk analysts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's kind of close to my heart really, because I used to be an analyst with Kent County Council, so whenever I go to an organisation, they're the first people I want to talk to, are you enjoying it here, that type of thing. And what I'm really seeing is this big jump in the competencies and experience required of an analyst. So I benefited massively from the technical to customer service jump. So everyone used to be a techie. I've got no technical experience whatsoever, but I got in at the right time, just when it was all about customer service, and I got in there. Now what we're seeing, due to self-service, self-help, peer-to-peer support, all of the different technologies and processes that enable customers to resolve their own issues, service desk analysts aren't tied to a phone anymore. So they tend to be more like business relationship managers, having that business knowledge is more important, knowing where things are. And the example, I think David Wright, our Director of Professional Services, came up with was service desk analysts now like the concierge of service desk services. So they kind of go, well, self-help's just here, or if you log that through self-service here. So it's a really interesting jump.
Well, we're here at the ITSMF UK London conference. What have you seen so far in the program of talks that have really hit on that topic?
Yeah, so I was listening to Ken Goffs this morning. So Ken was actually documenting that journey from technical to customer service. He hasn't made the jump that I've made yet. Not that he's not thinking about it. He just didn't get up and tell everyone about it. So he was talking about that jump. So everyone was the techie. Now we all need to have serious business knowledge. We need to know why, what an analyst is doing and why it's important. And we need to know how to talk to people, how to communicate effectively. So that's really interesting, knowing that this was the sort of thing that I'll be talking about today. To see Ken up there, an expert, talking about it was great.
Well, James, you're really big on business relationship management, so I'm kind of trying to struggle with this idea of the service desk analyst is not traditionally seen as a BRM role. So
actually, I think it's not just the BRM role, but it's actually into supplier ecosystem as well. Because what we're seeing is SIAM's very hot topic at the moment. People expect the service desk not just to be that post box, but to actually actively manage incidents as they pass through different suppliers, sometimes many suppliers. And we've always said in ITIL that the service desk should own the incident, but it's never really happened in the past. And it's interesting to know, really where I'm going with this is the skill set that the analyst needs changing drastically, and not just in a simple, are we more customer focused, but what does that mean?
Yeah, so I mean, BRM's actually, it's probably a bet, so it's BRM light, so it's not kind of that business intelligence role that's kind of put on the service desk analyst. I suppose almost account management, it seems to be this skill. So like you've mentioned, I've seen a lot of examples of service providers who do have kind of loads of external companies, and the analyst will manage that call. So it will manage the relationship with the customer logs it with the analyst. They don't care who's going to fix the call, who it's going to, but the analyst will kind of take full ownership of it. They're the point of contact for it as it moves through the different support organisations.
So from that side as well, talked about skills, what about tools? Does that mean that what we want from a tool set is changing drastically? Is it becoming more of a collaboration tool rather than a workflow tool even?
It's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. So some of the biggest examples where people kind of get it wrong are almost where they've got this old tool set and they're using about 3 or 4 at once, and they're passing it between the two, and it's just an amazing way to let something slip through the cracks.
But if it's going to jump between silos like that, stuff gets lost, and most of the time when the incident or the service request has been dealt with, is lost between the silos, if you like. So they're all responding to each other. But where if you bring in more of a collaborative approach, someone owns it, they call in expertise or advice from other areas, but it stays with them. Yeah. The incident's always visible. So the collaborative approach, I think, is much more fluid.
They become that pivot point
they
instead.
They do. But you're only
Which is
pulling
what we've been pushing for all these years.
But taking it from one silo and chucking it over at another, it's bound to cause major hassles. So the collaborative approach just allows you to say, hey, I need your input on this. pull them into the conversation, and then off you go and serve the needs of the customer.
Interested in knowing, Ollie, from your experience in doing the service desk reviews and things like that, are you actually seeing with the knowledge management and the whole shift left, as we say, or coming out of the funnel and pushing the answers as close to where they're being asked as possible, are you seeing the roles of the other levels, 2s, 3s, that experience, actually wanting to move into the service desk as it becomes more intelligent and they deal with more interesting things?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we always talk about is the service desk being an aspirational place to work. It needs to be able to encourage people with the skill sets and knowledge to be able to come in. It's a difficult sell. It's a difficult sell, I think, for these people that are techies or...
Well, they came from there, out of there.
Why would they want to come back?
Why would they want to come back?
Yeah, absolutely. But you do see some organisations very successful at doing it. NHS organisations, for me, historically, seem to be amazing at kind of encouraging people to come back and almost expanding the remit of the service desk. Through basically, you know, we're delivering this amazing service. Why don't you want to be a part of that?
Yeah.
You know, come and join us. We're all in it together. And what we're seeing more of is this one IT approach. It's not necessarily the service desk, but let's all be part of one organisation. We're all delivering this amazing service. Let's all be joined up about it and collaborate.
Do you think that even repositions for service desks to sit less in IT than to be beginning to sit in the business? Both physically as well as organisationally?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's a difficult question because I mean, organisations vary massively. So we've got some. So higher education, as an example, tend to distance themselves quite a bit. So simply because their customers are students, and their students look at them almost like the Apple help desk type thing. They come to them to be fixed. Public sector, on the other hand, are blurring the lines quite a bit. So they are going out and they are broadening the remit of the service desk in the way it engages with customers, engages with the business. And what you tend to find is they're excellent at incentivising people who work and have that knowledge of the business to come and work for the service desk, to bring those skills in, and stopping this kind of idea that you have to have technical knowledge. If you've got business knowledge, come on in, we'll train you up with the technical stuff. So those lines are blurred somewhat. But I think we're still going to see the IT department for a little while longer.
Getting more and more rotation of the roles through, though, to actually cross-pollinate that knowledge and build up the capacity and the capability.
Yes, yeah, and you do see a great deal of that internally, inside an IT organisation. Now, more and more we see secondments going through, kind of a cyclical secondment. So you're off with second line for 6 months, then with third line for 6 months, you bring all of that excellent knowledge back down to the first line, write some knowledge articles and help us become more effective.
That's good.
I think that was one of the key things. We touched on it already. We touched on the collaboration, we touched on self-service, but one of the pieces of feedback I've often heard from organisations who've gone down the self-service route is that we don't have people sitting on the end of phones waiting for the next call, which might not be the most important call, so we can prioritise properly. But it also frees them up to actually first line dealing with second line, dealing with third line, and actually gathering an awful lot of knowledge. And also, if they're using a collaborative approach, what you find is the conventional, let's write a big knowledge base and keep it all up to date, that kind of doesn't really work that well. But through collaboration, you're capturing like tacit knowledge, stuff that would normally get lost. And that gets captured with the actual information about the request, about incident, and actually the knowledge is retained just by people having conversations across different
for me,
silos.
with all the service desk reviews and things that I've done over the years, one of the biggest gaps I've found is they don't always have a proper skills matrix, or they don't even know what skill sets they have about, not just the technical ones, or I've got Microsoft, I've got this, I've got that. But I'm in those business skills, which is why I love Sphere. I can't help it. I'm just a Sphere fan.
I thought you'd have to mention
I
Sphere.
know, I can't help it, especially coming from a HR background. L&D and designing your training programs the right way is so important. But if we're doing more of that cross-pollination, it means that we've actually got access to really good cross-functional project teams now. I think that's such an advantage of having service desk analysts be part of that.
Yeah, and you find some business units almost due to kind of shared service models just connect. So before I left Kent County Council, they were almost partnering up with HR, so almost doing a swap. So it doesn't necessarily have to be internal like IT or specifically out to a business unit, but you kind of look at the call centre aspects that HR are operating and going, well, actually, let's learn from each other. Let's take a bit of what works for both of us and make something really good.
So I wonder if the next leap, so we're seeing this kind of move now to people understanding what happens in a business unit. I still think there's a lot of work to be done in helping the service desk understand outcomes of business units. Are you seeing any evidence that actually that's happening a lot more, or?
Do you know, I recently finished an audit, and this was next. It was an NHS trust. I won't mention them. I'm not sure if I'm allowed. I'm sure I am, but I won't. And what they were doing is their analysts would be supporting the NHS trust, but every 2 months they'd go out and visit the hospital, and they'd walk around, and we got to walk around with them, and it was phenomenal. Just that kind of the eyes wide open, kind of going, I helped do this. This is me helping fix that doctor's laptop meant that this patient is better. And that was, I think, perhaps because the environment's the most strong example I've got of that. But it is, you're seeing more and more of the services kind of going out and going, this is the contribution that we're making.
I'm such a strong proponent of building that into even the induction program to start with. I think if you're going to build a long-term solid service desk, you want the people, as part of that training program, you go spend 2 days in each area of the different business units as part of training up. So when you're sitting there and hearing and watching the way they use the systems and that type of thing, it makes a completely different visual and perception when you receive the call at the desk.
Yeah, and you know, it works both ways. So for the analysts, it adds meaning to what they're doing, adds relevance to what they're doing, but also it helps that customers know that this is the human that's been fixing your issue. This is what they're doing to help.
It's like, oh look, Ollie, I know your voice now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there's an opportunity still, because we talked previously about peer-to-peer support. And I think if the service desk is collaborating in those areas, that's where you find out the real gems. Because going out for a walk in the business is great, fantastic. Most service desk analysts should be doing it as regularly as often. But what about doing it on a daily basis, where maybe you're collaborating together with the peer-to-peer support and stuff like that, and IT pitching in to say, hey, that's a good thing.
So monitoring, messaging services, things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Just pitching in to spaces where people are discussing things and IT being able to help out and stuff. That, I think, is where we learn the most valuable knowledge, because it's not stuff that would normally come to
Well,
IT.
I think if knowledge is, service and support's key product, then we should be part of that community and those forums anyway.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Ollie, for joining us.
Absolute pleasure.
Wonderful
Ollie.
conversation around analysts. I hope we've encouraged a few more of them to want to be part of that role in that environment. Thank you, everyone.